Justin Kurzel's 2019 Bushranger drama, True History of the Kelly Gang, is exactly the opposite of what its title suggests, with the film's opening stating just that. None of what you are about to see is true. Kurzel delivers a film unlike any previous depiction of the Kelly legend, choosing to adapt Peter Carey's fictional novel of the same name, and presenting a flawed yet understandable character. What stands out from Kurzel's adaptation is the glaring beauty and threat of the Australian landscape highlighted by Ari Wegner's cinematography, Jed Kurzel's shrill score pandering throughout, the mixing of modern and old English, and the exploration of the myth that is Ned Kelly. Rather than the one-dimensional criminal Kelly is often depicted as, Kurzel's representation forces the audience to sympathise with the madman Kelly really is, often achieved through the depiction of the British and their persecution of Kellys, enabling him to craft a character whose desire for leaving an impact and breaking the social construct designed to inhibit him, thus ensuring audience understanding of the anti-hero's motive. This motive being fear. Kurzel highlights this motive and delivers an understanding of the desires of the character. This is paired with McKay's fantastic performance and the frantic editing and dialogue, which all contribute to a fear that blankets the audience. That is, the fear of the unknown. Fear is a clear and present theme throughout Kurzel's film, and it coincides with the archetypes of the Australian Gothic. These archetypes include perverse characters whose distorted and corrupted views of reality lead to their control over the narrative, forcing audiences to try and escape the scariest thing of all, their own minds. George McKay and Orlando Schwerdt take control of the audience in their joint depiction of Kelly, bringing a level of anarchy and vulnerability to the character that transcends the screen and speaks directly to the audience. This is evident in several scenes throughout the film, with the confrontation between Harry Power and Sergeant O'Neill a prime example. The scene takes place in the first act, after Ned has just realised that Harry Power, the philosophy-laden bushranger he has been helping for the past few days, bought Ned from his mother, who sold her son for £15. The scene in question sees Harry Power and Ned ambush Sergeant O'Neill as he is seeing a prostitute. This is significant given that O'Neill regularly visits Alan Kelly, who is also a prostitute. Whilst Harry Power initially planned the ambush as a lesson for Ned on how to take back power from those lording it over you, Ned's reluctance to shoot O'Neill, disregarding the orders of his owner, only minutes after learning that he is now the property of a man he barely knows, highlights how he still holds on to the words of his father, a failure and a thief who ultimately went to jail for Ned's actions. His father taught him to respect authority even when they wronged you, something present throughout the film in the British and their handling of the Irish. However, as Harry Power continues to bark orders at Ned, the overwhelming presence of fear is seen to get the better of Ned, with his attitude changing as he shoots O'Neill and threatens to shoot Power. This is supported by Rayner's suggestion that Australian Gothic cinema explores iniquitous authority and its repeated depiction of brutal and uncompromising masculinity. This reinforces the idea that Ned is so driven by fear as a result of his brutal environment that he has to become a man to survive. Speaking of masculinity, Kurzel explores this theme in greater detail as the story progresses, with the Kelly gang dressing up in frocks just like Ned's father did, in order to scare the British, as
nothing scares a man like crazy.
This concept highlights the evolution of Ned as a character, with him initially being shown to be fearful of his father's dress wearing, yet ultimately himself wearing a dress to cause fear. However, this theme of fear is taken even further when Ned evolves from man into monitor, as whilst once he was a man and would have been scared by Crazy, now even Crazy can't scare him. This is perfectly shown in what I think is the greatest scene in the film, Ned's conversation with hostage Thomas Curnow at Glenrowan Inn. This short scene, whilst quite vanilla on the surface, is essentially a metaphor for the long-running feud between the Irish and the British present throughout the film, something shown not just through dialogue but also through the movements of Thomas and Ned. Thomas is only introduced to the audience in this scene. However, his dialogue and confidence when talking to his captor is something only ever seen to be shown by British characters throughout the film, particularly police. On the other hand, Ned is perceived throughout the film to be weaker, especially as a child, because of his Irish heritage which dooms him and his family to constant persecution. With that being said, Kurzel's direction of this scene reveals to the audience that Ned is indeed not Irish, but rather Australian. Let me explain. Whilst Thomas exudes a powerful confidence initially when talking to the quivering Ned, something shown by his lack of fear, critiques of Ned's writing, and ultimately his willingness to lie about wanting to help Ned. As the scene progresses, Ned is seen to take the upper hand, not through his writings or through his speech, but by his physical presence. Ned's irrational behaviour and critiques of Curnow not only frighten the audience, but also reveal that Ned is no longer truly fearful of the British. Thomas Curnow is ultimately seen to quiver before Ned. This is highlighted by Psypos, who writes that a suspenseful story or creepy atmosphere instills fear into audiences, setting them on edge as they nervously await potential shocks. Just like Thomas Curnow, the audience is captured by Ned and afraid of what he could possibly do next. Ned is distinctly Australian, unlike anything the Irish and British characters in this film have ever seen before. And it is for this reason that this short, dialogue-heavy scene is my favourite throughout Curzel's marvellous film. Finally, it would be abhorrent to talk about True History of the Kelly Gang without talking about truth. Ned's narration throughout the film highlights the importance of such a theme, with Ned having the sole desire of being the author of his own history, and not having it corrupted by the British. Curzel hammers in the importance of this theme throughout the film through dialogue and narration. As a result of this, the audience is acutely aware of Ned's desire for his story to be told truthfully. This is paired with several other elements of Ned's character, such as point of view shots when the Kelly Gang burn to death in Glenrowan, to ensure that the audience feels sympathy for Ned and understand and want his story to be told properly. However, Curzel masterfully subverts this by having Thomas Curnow, a talentless, upper-class British man, responsible for not only derailing Ned's plans and causing his demise, but also for corrupting Ned's story. With that being said, Curzel might be attempting to ask the audience who they should really believe, and whose side they should be on. As Pericic and Marija write, the story ultimately questions Australia's cultural memory of the Ned Kelly story. And so this is where I leave you. I encourage you to watch this gorgeous, unnerving film for yourself and see where you stand on the true history of the Kelly Gang.